afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this afternoon webinar on Office 365, taking your business to the cloud with Office 365. Before we get started here, I just wanted to briefly go over the Gotowebinar Toolbar. So I have everybody on mute to start with here. Some of you have called in. Some of you, it looks like you're using your audio that's available on your computer. One thing you should be aware of is if you're using the audio on your laptop or your desktop, keep in mind that in some cases what we've found is you're able to hear, but you don't have a mic, so you can't talk, or your mic is off. So if you for any reason you anticipate you might want to ask some questions to our presenter, and you're listening through your machine, you want to be sure that you have a mic that's available. If you've called in, and I see everybody here has done this correctly, but just in case, when you dial in, you have to enter in an audio pin, and what that does is it allows us to control the audio to give us the ability to mute and unmute you. So you will have to enter in a audio pin, which is anywhere from a 1 to 3 digit code, and it should be in bold. So if you go to the tab that says audio, that's where you're going to find it. It's going to have the dial-in number, the access code, and then it will have your audio pin. Feel free to ask questions. Just go to the questions toolbar. You can type in a question. I'll be more than happy to interrupt our presenter and ask them the question on your behalf, or feel free to raise your hand. There's an icon or a button there where you just click it, you raise your hand, I will go ahead and unmute you, and then you can ask the question directly if you feel that it'd just be easier to do it that way. We'll go ahead and get started here. I'd like to introduce you to our presenter, James Mays. He's a Senior IT Systems Consultant here at NIMS & Associates.
Thanks, Henry. I appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the day. So today we're going to go through a little bit about Office 365 and what the cloud is and why your business may want to move from on-premise, if you're still on-premise, into Office 365. Or if you're already using Office 365, we'll maybe show you some things that you didn't know that you could do. So we'll have a demo near the end with some integration pieces that you can see some of the things that we can do. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And the first thing we want to look at is what is Office 365. So typically when we say Office 365, a lot of clients think, oh, well, that's just Microsoft Office in the cloud. So I just get Word and Excel in the cloud, and that's all I get. It's actually much more than that. So yes, there are plans where you can get the Office desktop apps, the Office mobile apps, and the Office web apps. Those are 3 different things, right? So the desktop apps are installed locally on your machine. The mobile apps are available for iOS and Android devices. And then the web apps, which we'll demonstrate later, all of these except mobile we'll demonstrate later, the web apps are available to you in a browser. But much more than just those applications, really Office 365 gives you things like business class email. So if you've been using Microsoft Exchange and you've had an Exchange server in-house for a long time, you get that same business class because Exchange is the backend for their email system. You get file sharing through SharePoint and OneDrive. You can do HD video conferencing through Skype for Business. They do have anywhere access because things are browser-based, so you don't need to have your laptop with you, or just got your tablet, or maybe you're borrowing someone else's computer. So you can get access anywhere. You don't need to be on the corporate network to be able to access your data. Some things that are important for IT is the management is very easy. Everything is tied to a user. So you provision Office apps for a user, you provision access to SharePoint or OneDrive or Skype for Business per user, so it makes it really easy for IT to manage. There is a financially backed SLA, so Microsoft obviously is a very large company with data centers all over the world. They've got 21 data centers globally, and so they back their service with money. So if they don't meet the SLA, they will pay you. They also have technical support, follows the sun, so they've got 24/7 support, whether it's online or via the phone. So all good features that are available to you through Office 365. Many of these would be hard for you to do on-premise yourself. So the power of Office 365 is not only just those Office apps, but the ability to have a much broader scope of support and services available to you. So the Office 365 ecosystem. So there's all kinds of names here that maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't. So some of them are normal, right? You know what Exchange is potentially because you've got email. You've heard about Skype. So Microsoft bought Skype, and now they have Skype for Business, which is a little different than the just plain vanilla Skype that you might see online. But it's essentially the same service. The business just gets a few different features than the consumer version does. There's things like Visio and Project that you're probably familiar with. Now there's lots of new things that maybe you haven't heard about. Things like Yammer, which is another acquisition that Microsoft made about 6 or 8 years ago. Some new things like Power BI or Azure Active Directory. So we'll go through some of these as we go on. I always like to point out there's the ones I think have some funny names like Sway, which is an attempt at online PowerPoint, for lack of a better term. And then there's Delve, which we'll actually look at later, which again has a funny name, but it's for them it's a way to uncover things in your organization that you might not be able to uncover without lots of conversations. And then the new one that they've introduced, a couple new ones this year. So Planner is a lightweight project management tool. That's actually still in preview. We're not going to cover that today, but if you have questions about that, we could certainly follow up later. And then Groups. So Groups is a way to do ad hoc, team-based collaboration. So anyone can, assuming IT lets them, anyone can create an ad hoc group in Office 365 and quickly spin up and interact with people that may be working on a similar topic, things like that. Lots of things at the bottom there, right? Obviously, enterprise grade cloud. So again, they've got 21 data centers across the world. So you've got redundancy and all of that things built in. They manage the power and the connectivity, and they manage backups and do geo-redundancy and things like that. The productivity services, so all the things that you're used to using, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, those are all available to you. The familiar and easy clients, that SLA again. Security and compliance. So we'll touch on that a little bit. Microsoft has, if you go to microsoft.com/trust center, you can actually look at, they've got about 21 to 25 different compliance certifications that they have. So that's super important if you're doing anything that is that requires PCI or HIPAA or FDA or any of those certifications. Microsoft has almost all of them, and they maintain them for all the different products that they use. So basically, they're saying you can trust us. We've had third parties evaluate our products, and you can trust us. Lots of flexibility. So Microsoft has lots of different plans. Again, we're not going to go through the plans in detail today, but we can certainly follow up after. But they make it flexible for you. If you already own Office and you don't need that, you just want email and SharePoint, you can get that. If you want the whole package, you can get that. If you need compliance and e-discovery, you can get that. So there's lots of different plans available to you there. And then you can actually, the last part of that is the hybrid piece. So you can mix and match with what you have online, or on-premise, excuse me. So if you already have some of these things on-premise that you're hosting, maybe you've got an Exchange server and you've got Active Directory and you just want to be able to integrate Office 365 with those, but you're not quite ready to replace them, you can do a hybrid implementation. So Microsoft supports that as well. And then cross-platform delivery. So again, their software is available on Windows, it's available on Mac, it's available on iOS, it's available on Android. So you can run their software anywhere. And this for me is something that really came out of Satya Nadella taking over at Microsoft, and he's really pushed the fact that we want to be able to use our software anywhere you want. And the last piece is enterprise-grade support. So I mean, Microsoft has been around the enterprise for many, many, many years now. So everything that they're providing is based on supporting enterprises. Right? Not that consumers aren't important to them, but the enterprise is their bread and butter, and so that's where they're going to provide their support. I've got Michael Sandoval on the line with me. He's one of our other systems engineers. Michael, did you have anything you wanted to add to either one of those?
No, I think it's really key to outline the fact that Office 365 is more than just these apps online. And because I get that question a lot from my clients of, well, I don't really want to run Word or Excel on internet, and so it's good that you went through those the different products.
Good, good. We're seeing a lot of people choose Office 365, not only in the enterprise space, but also in the small to medium business space. So this product is applicable if you have 5 users, just as applicable if you have 50 users or 150 users. So really good solution, we think, for everybody out there. So why do you need Office 365? So this is Microsoft's vision here, but I think it's pretty powerful. So we've gone from a PC on every desktop, right? So even if you can go back far enough, we went from non-connected PCs on desktops, right, where you would log into your PC and you would do whatever it is you're going to do, but to share it with somebody, you had to put it on a disk or you had to print it out and walk it over to them. So that PC era it's kind of gone now, right? Not that we don't have PCs on desktop still, but we're moving beyond that. So we've moved into the internet area now, where we started connecting everything. So we've got servers, we've got PCs, we've got networks, we provided remote access, and we really made everything within the corporate walls available to everybody within the corporate walls. And then some people could get remote access, but everything was connected, right? And the internet certainly helped us with that, so we could start to work with our data. But it still wasn't all that easy, right? Many of you might remember, you would have to VPN in, or maybe you'd have to use Citrix XenApp, or there was always some way to get to the data that you need. And so now we're moving into the cloud area, where you can work anywhere you want, anytime you want, on any device you want. And that's really the vision that Microsoft has, and all these cloud providers have, is let's not limit what people can do and when they can do it and where they can do it. And the hybrid flexibility is still being able to maintain some of your on-premise infrastructure that maybe you've already invested in. So you're not having to give that up just to make the move to the cloud. But many of them, I'm sure, carry a smartphone or have a tablet in addition to a laptop or a desktop PC these days. Michael, what are you seeing in some of your small to medium customers? How are they making this change and this migration?
So what I'm seeing out there is where even as far back as maybe 6 years ago, companies these days are having to partner up with other organizations to deploy a product, a service, whatever it is. And without using the cloud infrastructure that allows you to really quickly and easily collaborate with other companies, it makes it real difficult to get things done. And so in companies that don't have the advantage of using Office 365, it's really hard to collaborate with other organizations outside the company with simple things like document sharing, assigning tasks to maybe another partner that you work with. So if people end up using kind of their homegrown solutions, like maybe their personal Dropbox account to share files with a vendor outside the company, because there isn't an organizational-wide solution. So this is, we're seeing this need every day, and it's one of the reasons why I think Office 365 is so powerful, because it's not very expensive, and it really helps the businesses do what they need to do with not only internally, but with other partners that they're working with.
I agree, and that's definitely one of the things that we'll try to touch on a little bit later, but the interaction between companies now is definitely what's, I think, driving that cloud era, right? So not only are you interacting with people within your own company, but more and more so we're interacting with people outside of our company, and how do we share that data with them, and how do we do that securely so that we've got the protections that we need and the compliance that we need if those are in those kind of organizations where compliance is important. Thanks for that, Michael. So I'm going to go ahead and move into how Office 365 is helping others. And we're going to do a quick demo, and we'll walk through here. And so if you've got questions, certainly as Henry mentioned, you could type them in to the chat window there, and he can interrupt me as we go along if you have questions. We will open it up at the end for Q&A. So if your question doesn't get answered right away, we'll definitely come back to it before we end the webinar today. So what we're going to look at is an example of, and obviously this comes from Microsoft. If any of you have ever seen the Microsoft demo, they use Contoso all the time, so that's their fictional company. So we have Karen Berg, who's a Vice President of Operations and Business Strategy at Contoso. They're a retail manufacturing company, and they're specializing in electronics. In her role, she's responsible for overseeing their operations and processes to ensure that they support the growth and strategic direction of the company. So, in this example, she begins her day out at one of the largest retail stores, where she has a quarterly touch-base meeting with the store manager. She learns the manager is concerned about the negative feedback her associates have been getting about a new product. As Karen is leaving the meeting, she tells the manager that she will look into the issue today. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch to the demo here. We're going to walk through how Karen might deal with the information she's received and how she might share that with her team and come up with a solution and a strategy to address the concerns that were raised here. So let me switch screens here. And we'll show the main screen. And Henry, everyone can see the new screen here with the Windows 10 logo on it?
Yes, we could see it. Thanks.
Okay. So for those of you who haven't seen it, while not necessarily part of our Office 365 piece today, this is Windows 10 that we'll be using. So obviously as part of Microsoft's demos, they want you to see Windows 10. And ideally, if you haven't upgraded it to already, they want you to head that direction. So we'll be using Windows 10 along with some of the Office 2013 and Office 2016 applications that are available out there now. So remember we said that she went and gathered some information from the store manager there, and so now she's gone to a local coffee shop nearby because she wants to go ahead and make some notes. So she's going to go ahead and log in from a web browser to the Office 365 portal. Now what she needs to start here is she needs to go into OneDrive. So she's got some files that she's stored in OneDrive. So this is her personal file storage on the web. And she's got a notebook here where she's got some notes that she's made in her OneNote notebook. So OneNote is another product, obviously, of Microsoft's. So she's going to go ahead into this OneNote notebook, for store visits. She's going to select the store visits notebook on the left-hand side over here. And then she's going to create a new page for today. And we're going to call it Store Visit Today. And we'll put in today's date. Happy St. Patrick's Day to anyone who might be Irish out there or just enjoys the holiday, by the way. And we might put some note in there, quarterly check-in, maybe, concerns over M400 launch. So she's got some notes in here that she needs to address. And go ahead and add that, add her meeting notes in there. And if she had a list of things to do, she could certainly add in, some to-dos as well. Find out concerns or whatever the case might be. So she can check on sales, whatever her to-dos might be. So she could add that in her notebook there because she knows that she wants to work on that when she gets back in the office today. But she doesn't want to miss what she had met with the store manager on. Excuse me. So then she's going to go back to her OneDrive, and she wants to make sure that this notebook is available to others as well. So she's going to select the store visit notebook, and then at the top here she's going to go ahead and click the sharing icon. So we're going to pick a few people. So in this case, Michael is acting as Julian Isla, the VP of Sales Operations. So we're going to invite Michael to this shared notebook and maybe type in some notes here. Got some interesting feedback today. Please review my notes so we can discuss later. So notice that what I'm doing here is I'm sharing the document with Julian, but I don't have to open up an email, find the document, attach it, all of that, right? So this is all being done for me. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with Julian, and an email will go out to Julian now. With a link back to the document. You can see the email's already come in. So it sends me a copy to remind me of what I shared. And then Julian also would get a copy in his mailbox that he can then click on, would bring him back to this notebook, and he could edit it and view it and things like that and provide some feedback to me. So the other thing we want to do now is she wants to create a PowerPoint so that she can start putting together a presentation to address some of these concerns. So again, from OneDrive right here, I can click on New, and I can create a new PowerPoint presentation. So I haven't left the web browser yet. Again, I'm not in the office. I'm out of the coffee shop next door. So I've gone ahead and created a new PowerPoint presentation. We're not going to put anything in here because it's not important what's in there, just the power of being able to create one on the fly right from the browser. So I'm going to come back here. I see it created this presentation for me. I'm going to go ahead and select the presentation, and I want to make sure I want to rename this because presentation doesn't really give me enough info. So I'm going to rename this presentation to M400 Concerns, and I'll save it here. So again, in the browser on the fly, I've now created a PowerPoint presentation and renamed it so that I can work on it later with the people that I want. Now I want to be able to work on some of this stuff offline. So I may not have access to the internet later. Maybe I'm just going to be on the bus on a commute or on a plane or whatever. And so we want to go ahead and sync this folder up. So by clicking the Sync Now button, we can use the OneDrive app on our local machine to process the synchronization and store these files on our local machine. So I'll just take a second here to sync these up. And now I've got offline access to my files. So here's all the same files that were in my online OneDrive storage, but now I've got them on my local machine. And you can see the little green check marks mean that those have successfully synchronized down to my local machine. So now I can work on those offline without internet access, but those changes will be uploaded back into OneDrive for me the next time that I get internet connectivity. All right, so now we've got offline access to everything there. Okay, so now we're going to come back. So Karen's now left the coffee shop. She's made her notes. She started her quick PowerPoint, and she's making her trek back to the office. And she gets back into the office, and she wants to review her email. So she's going to open up Outlook. So Windows 7 and Windows 10, you can just start typing Outlook, and it'll populate the choices for you. In this case, I've already got Outlook open, but if I didn't, I could click on Outlook here quickly. And I've got the Outlook product open already, so we'll go there. So one of the new features that Microsoft wants me to point out to you is clutter. So clutter is an attempt at intelligently figuring out what's important to you. So eliminating email overload is the goal of clutter. So clutter is a new feature with Outlook 2013 and 2016. There's nothing obviously in this clutter folder here, but what this does is it looks to messages that may be less important to you and will move them here. So if you've started to use these apps and things end up in clutter, you'll know where that is. It's sort of like it's similar to your spam folder, except the items in clutter aren't spam; they're just less important. So nothing in clutter there. So we'll move on from that. So the next thing we did is we wanted to look at an email about there's a happy hour coming up that was sent by Amy Alberts here. So we go on to Amy's email here, and we notice that there's an annual meeting happy hour coming up, and we want to attend this, but we don't really recognize where it is we're supposed to meet. So one of the features of Outlook 2016 is this ability to do add-ins. So I can click Bing Maps here at the top. Bing automatically scanned the email, found the address, and has now plotted it on a map for me. So I can get directions, I can view it on a larger map, all those kinds of things are available to you. So there's a ton of add-ins on the Microsoft Store that you can add. Obviously, the Get More Add-ins link here or the Store Add-ins link up here. But these are just some of the power of being able to find things that are useful to you with a simple click, right? So again, it scanned the email, it found an address, and boom, I've got a big map right there. Just gonna hide that back up. And let's move on to the next item here. So the other thing that we can do, some power here, is some compliance features. So in this case, Karen's going to send an email to the travel agent with her credit card number. So nobody has to admit it, but I'm sure we've all sent our credit card via email before, and we know that that's probably not the safest thing to do. So a couple things you'll notice here is I've chosen the travel agent who is not inside my organization. So Microsoft has already identified that this person is outside my organization, so we're starting there. And this is important because the policies you can put in place are looking at things like inside the organization, outside the organization, things like that. So now we're going to go ahead and add in a quick message, and I'm going to show you the power of what we can do here. Please use my updated credit card to reserve my room. Okay, and so then now on the next page, she's going to put in her visa. And her expiration date. Oops. Expires 08/2018. Okay. Thanks, Karen. So if you notice up at the top here, a couple things happen. So in addition to Outlook figuring out that the recipient's outside of your organization, it's also looking at policies that have been defined by IT or by your IT consultant to prevent things like sensitive information leaving the company. So in this case, it says, we can't send this because it's got sensitive information, and this person, Bob, isn't authorized to receive this type of information. So it detected that there was a credit card number in the body here. It'll also detect things like social security numbers and other things like that, but it detected that and automatically blocked it. So even if we click send here, it's not going to go anywhere. This is all policy-based, so we can protect information from being sent via email that really shouldn't be. So in this case, Karen's going to throw away this email, and she'll just call Bob and give her a credit card number, which is probably potentially the safer thing to do. So the next thing she does is she notices that while she was out earlier from her phone, she had flagged an email, from Carlos about this M400 smartphone launch, which is, what she had some concerns from the store manager about it, and now she's got an email here from Carlos about it as well. And so she had flagged this for follow-up so she could come back to get it later when she returned to the office. It wasn't something she wanted to try to do on her phone. So she wants to really talk with Carlos and some other people about this. So instead of just replying to his email, we're going to go at the top up here, and we're going to click on Reply with Meeting. So when we do that, it automatically is going to create a meeting request. So the other thing we want to do is we want to make sure this is a Skype meeting. So we want to have some audio and video and maybe some file sharing. So we're going to click on Skype Meeting at the top up here. So it's going to automatically generate a Skype number for us, provide a toll-free number or a local number. If obviously they're on my organization, they can join the Skype meeting without having to call in by phone, whether it's through the Skype app on their desktop or the Skype mobile app. Either one of those are available to them. Now, in addition to a Skype meeting, she wants to add some notes for this meeting that she wants everybody to review. So again, I can go up here to Meeting Notes, and I can share some notes with the meeting. In this case, I'm going to get that same store visit notebook that I shared earlier with Julian, and I've got those notes in, and I'm going to attach that now. So now I've got a link to those notes. Now notice it didn't actually attach the notes. It attached a link to those notes in OneDrive. So again, making it much more powerful for us to be able to get the data we need and not having to send large attachments all over the place. So I've got the meeting notes attached, and we are... the other thing we wanted to attach now also maybe was that PowerPoint that she started earlier. So we can attach them, normal files just like we would anything else. So we can come up here to Insert along the top, and we can attach a file. We're going to browse a web location, and we're going to go back out to Karen's OneDrive. So in her OneDrive, I can grab that PowerPoint file that we created earlier. Okay? And we can insert that. And you notice what it does is it looks like an attachment, but if you look at the location, it's really just still pointing to that location on OneDrive. The other thing that it does here is it allows me to modify the permissions. So in this case, it says they can edit it, which is probably okay, but if I didn't want them to do that, I could come in here and I could change the permissions, and I could say, you know what, you can view it, not edit it. In this case, we're going to go ahead and just leave it as edit so that they can make some changes and help me generate the message that we want to generate out to everybody. The last thing we're going to do here is we're going to come back in and we're going to add in a couple other groups here. So the Operations and Business Strategy group, we want them to join this meeting, and we want the Sales group to join as well because it's important that they all get that information as well. And we're going to do this. We're going to do this meeting a little bit later today. We'll move it back to 1:30, and I think it might take 2 hours or an hour. Excuse me. And so we've got the ability to generate our meeting request just like we did before, but now we've got it We've added it in Skype, we've added it in meeting notes, and we've added an attachment from OneDrive. And we can go ahead and click send and send that out. And away that goes. Okay, so hopefully you saw some power there that maybe you haven't seen with Outlook or with some of the Office products before. So now we're going to move on to one of the newer features available to you that those of you that have Office 365 may or may not be using. Those that don't have it, this is something that you could use if you chose to join and sign up for Office 365 and make use of the services. So we're going to use a product called Yammer. Silly name, but Yammer is Microsoft's social tool. So in this case, Karen is looking for some feedback on this M400 product that she's going to launch. So she comes into Yammer, and on the left-hand side here, we've got all the different discussion groups that are going on. And I'm going to go ahead and click on product feedback. So she wants to see what people are talking about in regards to this product and what kind of feedback. So she finds a post by Sanjay here about this M400 phone, which is exactly what she wants some feedback on. In this, she sees that he suggests maybe that we provide some better messaging, and so Karen does a couple things. So it's social, so she can like this message. That's not the super powerful part, obviously, right? But below there, she sees some responses. In this case, Krista Geller had commented on it and says, the perception is that a lower price means an inferior product. So maybe the M400 is an inferior product, even though we know it's a better product than maybe the M300 that used to exist. So she can review what other people are saying about it in addition to what Sanjay said when he started the conversation. In addition, Karen wants to follow this conversation. So she wants to know when other people talk about this conversation. So this little ellipsis here, and we can follow this conversation. Okay? And so now every time somebody replies to this conversation with new feedback, an email will automatically come into Karen's mailbox, and she'll be kept up to date on what's going on with the conversation around this. Okay. And now Karen wants to get a little bit more information, so we're going to come back to the All Company group, which is on the left-hand side here, and she's going to create a new post. And so she's going to come up here to the top and say, I am looking for ideas on why pre-sales or and just like any social, so if you're used to Facebook or Twitter or any of those social groups, we can add hashtags. So she's going to add a hashtag for the M400. So anybody that talks about the M400 using that hashtag, she'll be able to sort and view all those comments at some point. And then she's going to finish her message out here. Have been low. Okay, so she's created a new, let me know if you have insight. So she's asking basically everyone in the company to provide some feedback on and give her their, give candid thoughts on what they think about this. And we're going to do one more thing here. So she wants to make sure it's easily found, so we added the hashtag, but we can also click on Add Topics here, and we can add the M400 in here as well. So and then we can go ahead and post that. And so now everybody in the company has got a message there about the M400 and wants, that Karen wants some feedback on that. So the next thing that Karen wants to do is she wants to know whether or not anything is being said about M400 out on her local network. And, so she's going to go up and click on Delve. So Delve again has a funny name. Oh, sorry, you saw that Julian here had a great suggestion that maybe we need a cowbell app. Maybe there's that app that we need for the M400 that's going to really push it over the edge, and maybe it's cowbell. So Karen will certainly take that into consideration as she goes to look at the product features. So now we're going to switch over from Yammer to Delve. So Delve basically goes and looks at what people are posting online in your organization, whether it's documents they're working on or Yammer posts or documents that they've shared with the team, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and click on Delve. And in this case, Karen wants to know what's being said in the social area. So in the top up here, we'll click the search bar, and then we'll type in social, and have now got some relevant terms. So not only did it search the title, but it also searched inside the the comments and potentially inside the document as well. So in this case, Karen finds that there's some white papers and PowerPoint presentations on social media trends and strategies that were authored by Kelly Kraut. So she says, oh, well, maybe Kelly's somebody that could really help me here. So she clicks on Kelly's name, and now we've got Kelly's profile. So we find out what she does, a little bit about the department she's in, what her skills are, a little bit of background on Kelly there. And she says, Kelly might be a really great expert here. And so I'm going to go ahead and reach out to Kelly. I can click Skype chat right there from her profile, and I've started a Skype call with her. So, and I could type in, hi Kelly, where can I find information, whatever it is I need to know. But I've immediately now made contact with her just by searching for what I was looking for, finding someone who's good at what it is that I need to know, and then being able to reach out and contact this person very, very quickly. Okay. Kelly's not online, so she's probably not going to reply, but assuming she was online in this case, obviously she would reply with some tips and maybe give me some ideas, or maybe we'd set up a meeting, or we could do a quick Skype video call and talk about it. Or maybe in this case I've got Kelly here, but I've also maybe want to include Julian in this conversation. So I can drag and drop. I clicked on Julian, dragged and dropped it, and now I've got Julian in this conversation. So I can say, Julian, chime in if you have thoughts. Okay, and now I've gone from a two-person conversation into a three-person conversation. In this case, Kelly again is offline, so she's not going to respond. But if I wanted to here, I could now take this into a video call down here at the bottom. I have the option of turning this into a video call. I don't have a camera set up on here, but I could turn this into a video call easily. I could turn it into an audio call if need be, so I could do a Skype call. I could do. I could present my screen. So if I wanted to share my screen with everyone, so we could work on something together. Those are all available here from the message. So I could present my screen, maybe present my desktop out, and it's going to warn me that people can see my screen. But now I'm not sure if you can see this in the presentation, but you can. There's now a nice orange bar around the outside, and I'm sharing my screen with all the participants, and so now they can see what we're working on together. Okay. So that's the power of Skype for Business. So we'll go ahead and close this up. And we'll close that conversation up. Okay. And then one last piece here that we'll show, and then we'll open it up for some questions and answers and whatnot. You can see that Julian's been sending me messages while I'm away, so I can respond to those if need be. I'll do that a little bit later. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the power of SharePoint and how we might share information not only with our team, but maybe with a larger global company. So in this case, we're going to come up to the selector up here, again, the app chooser in the upper left, and this time we're going to pick on sites. Click on sites, excuse me. So we've come into the sites now, and you've seen I've got some recommended sites, I've got some recent sites, I've got some sites that I've followed because I want to know what's going on in those sites. In this case, I really want to know what's going on in the sales and marketing collateral area. So I'm going to click on the collateral center here, and it's going to take me to my SharePoint site for sales and marketing collateral for, in this case, we're talking most specifically about this new M400 phone that we've got out. So we want to update some of the messaging because remember Sanjay said, hey, the messaging could probably be updated a little bit better. So I'm going to choose to edit this presentation, and I'm going to stick it in PowerPoint Online here. I'm going to open it up right here on the web browser, and I can make changes here. Again, without, I could have opened it in the app, but I can make it online. But I also want to get Julian involved, so I want to make sure that Julian can help me here. Let's try this again. Sorry, one little second. This is always the problem with demos, is they don't always go completely perfect. So let me try to share this with him again. I'm missing the top part where I would type his name in, so I apologize for that. See if I can get it to work. If not, we'll move on to something else here. Okay, that's not working as well as I hoped it would work. So it looks like it's still trying to load presentation. So a little bit slow there. Give me 1 second here, and I'll see if I can fix this quickly. So you can see the power of sharing. So what we want to demonstrate here, I'll talk about it a little bit while we're waiting to see if we can get this to work, is the power of being able to co-author and work on the document at the same time. So let me try this again. Because I want to be able to invite Julian so that Julian can work on this document with me so that we can help each other out a little bit. So you can see here, Julian is editing the document. So on the front page here, you can see it's turned blue, and if I hover over this, I can see that Julian is editing this document. So I can be editing this document as well. So maybe up here, I want to be changing this while Julian is changing something else. Or maybe I want to go to a completely different slide and edit. But the power here is that we can both be editing in the document at the same time. So co-authoring is something that's available to you through all the web apps, and it's also available in Office 2016 as well. So in this case, we've shared the document with Julian. Julian's able to edit it with us, and now we've got collaboration while we're working on this together. So that's, I think, where we'll stop. Hopefully we've shown you enough about all the different things that Office 365 can do for you and why it might be something that your business could use. Even if you don't use everything, maybe there's something that you walk away with today that was powerful to you. So Henry, if you want, if there's any questions that have come up, or if you want to unmute the lines, we could certainly answer any questions that people may have. Is everyone still out there?
Okay, everyone's free to ask questions. The lines are now open.
Anyone have questions, or is there anybody out there that's using Office 365 that saw something new today that they didn't know about, or somebody who maybe the opposite of that, I guess, doesn't have Office 365 but saw the power that it might provide for their organization? Or is everybody just really busy celebrating St. Patrick's Day? It's awfully quiet.
I really like the power of collaboration because so many times when you go into the client file shares, you'll see maybe a version of PowerPoint, but then it'll have the initial of the person who modified it. And then the next person will come in and they'll add their initials to the document to let them know that this is their version of the document. By having the ability to have one document that multiple people can edit even at the same time if needed, I think that really helps, I guess, improve the workflow and avoid some of the issues where you have multiple versions of the same document, but maybe now it's living in someone's email. And so I think it's a really powerful feature that I know a lot of my clients really have taken off and utilized it in their organization. So I think it's really powerful.
Okay, we have a couple hands raised here. We'll go ahead and start with the first one here. Suzanne, would you like to ask your question? Yeah, I'm not sure if you're okay. You're on computer audio, so you might want to check and see if you have your mic active here. We'll go to the next question in the meantime. From Wilhelm, you raise your hand.
You there? Everybody's unmuted, right?
Correct, everyone's unmuted. So, okay, we do have a question here. Someone's asking, when do recurring costs kick in for the storage?
So Office 365 is priced based on a monthly plan. You can also prepay annually to get a little bit larger discount. But all the plans are typically, most of our small to medium customers pay monthly. And so the base plans do include a certain amount of storage for SharePoint and OneDrive. So OneDrive right now, I believe, is 1 terabyte. And then SharePoint is, if it's not the same right now, it's very similar in size. And so those costs for storage are included in your base price for the plan. Now, once you begin to exceed the allocated storage, then there are minor costs that for you to purchase additional storage. So we could certainly, Henry, if you make a note of that, I could follow up with that person directly, and we can walk through the plans and pricing and how that might affect them.
And I think this is one area where the cloud is really making a huge difference, because I think as little as 4 months ago, that storage amount that you would get with your online 365 account was, I think for SharePoint, used to be 10 gigs, and now just recently they upped that to 1 terabyte. So it's something that, being in the cloud, it's very easy for Microsoft to turn up the storage amount, sometimes even at no cost, because they know that they want to make sure the storage is not a problem or a hindering factor for you guys moving to the cloud, because storage is so inexpensive.
Yeah, so every Office 365 subscription gives you OneDrive for business storage of up to 1 terabyte. And then I believe SharePoint is still provisioned based on the number of users you have, but we could certainly follow back up on that. Other questions, Henry?
No other questions at this point. And again, the lines are open, so feel free to ask your question. Again, if you don't have a mic, feel free to type them in.
We've got a few minutes left here, so while you're checking on people's mics or getting extra questions, I'll share with you some data that Microsoft provides. So Microsoft has done some studies and basically figured out that thanks to the security features in Office 365, that companies can save quite a bit of money because of all the things that Office 365 is doing for you that you might need a large amount of hardware or in-house expertise or consulting expertise to help you with. And so while there are costs associated with moving to Office 365, there's also lots of savings as well. So you can save time and money. Now, their example here is the security features saved $90,250 per year. They're probably looking at some larger companies there, but definitely some significant savings. Again, their cloud storage and co-authoring, you get a consistent user experience, like Microsoft or Michael mentioned. Those are all great features for collaboration. You can work from any device, anywhere, anytime. They've got lots of great search capabilities built in. We showed a little bit with Delve, being able to search, but lots of natural language queries and easy-to-use maps and dashboards. And again, there's a whole lot more to Office 365 that we didn't cover today, but more than happy to follow up with anyone who wants a more in-depth demo on any of the pieces that we showed today.
James, I think one thing that is great about Office 365 as a consultant is that it allows us to really focus more on the client's business and add value to their workflow and look for solutions where we can help them improve a process instead of having to worry about whether or not the Exchange server has enough disk storage, whether we have to plan for a server replacement in the next year or two. So it's a really great way of helping us really focus on those maybe higher priority items instead of just the traditional break and fix type of work.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Michael. Definitely allows us to provide more consulting to you as a client and less hiding in the server room, working on servers all day long. So definitely a good thing to bring up there. Any other questions pop up there, Henry?
It looks like everyone's out of questions, huh?
Okay. So the other big thing I'll mention to you is that there are a ton of features that are available in Office 365 that can help with things like compliance or legal or other facets of your business. So again, the takeaway is we want to make sure that you have a solution that's robust and secure, allows us to help you with process and workflow, but also you can feel like my data is safe. So that's why lots and lots of clients are moving towards Office 365. All right, Michael, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we let everybody go?
No, I think that's it. I think this is great information for an hour's worth of time, and thank you.
Anyway, appreciate everybody coming today. Henry will have availability to provide this recorded webinar. I think we recorded it, Henry, is that right?
Correct. So
Yeah.
we'll make it available. I'll let everybody know when it will be available, anyone who's attended. And feel free to send us any questions if you have any afterthoughts about this. And if you'd like, a request of the recording, the reminder, I can send that to you individually.
And anybody that has some follow-on questions, obviously if you're working with someone at NIMS already, you can certainly reach out to that person, but you can also reach out to Henry. He has my contact information and Michael's, and we'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have offline, or provide you with a demo geared just towards you and your questions separately, if that's something that would be of value to you. So happy to help. I think we'll wrap it up, Henry. Thanks for setting this up.
Welcome. Thanks.
Hope everybody
Thanks
has a good St. Patrick's Day.